Good evening. Welcome to a very special presentation of American Fruit from African Roots with our alumnus, Larry Watson. My name is Dr. Jennifer Knapp. I'm the interim dean of the School of Communication, Media, and the Arts here at SUNY Oswego. It's my pleasure to welcome you this evening. It's also my honor to just give a quick shout out to some people who made tonight possible. It's a dedicated group of people that work with and serve the university in a variety of ways. So please join me in offering some sincere gratitude for the work of Trevor Jorgensen, Jerry Jaworski, Candy Rasbach, Cole Sustak, Crystal Kennel, Merrick Podakowski, Dan Roberts, and alumnus Michael D. Candido, class of 1987. Couple of housekeeping items. Before we begin, please note that emergency exits are located in the back of the theater as well through the hallway to my right. In the event of emergency, or fire alarm, please proceed quickly and calmly out of the nearest emergency exit and to the closest area of refuge if needed. Also, the State University of New York at Oswego would like to recognize with respect the Onondaga Nation, the people of the hills, or the Central Firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the indigenous peoples on whose ancestral lands SUNY Oswego now stands. Please join SUNY Oswego in acknowledging the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora nations, their elders, both past and present, as well as the future 7 generations yet to come. Consistent with the university's values of diversity and equity, inclusion and social justice, this acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to cultivating relationships with Native American communities through academic collaborations, partnerships, historical recognitions, and community service in order to dismantle the legacies of conquest and colonization. SUNY Oswego's relationship with diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice is long and deep, and tonight you will hear some remarkable stories about our history. Speaking of remarkable, let me tell you a couple of things about Larry Watson. Through 50 years of working in higher education, Professor Watson has made stops at Cornell, Harvard, and most recently the Berklee College of Music, from which he will retire this May. But tonight, he returns to Oswego. He returns home. He returns to us to share stories of triumph, stories of heartache, and stories about the pursuit of racial and social justice. We are all storytellers, and Larry is one of the best. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Larry Watson.
Been involved with community affairs for a long time.
again. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I said soon and very soon. 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 Hey! Come on, come on, come on.
Respect yourself.
Hello, Oswego. That was the opening for you, wasn't it? Now, let me tell you something about that song. Some of you were saying, Robbie, I think I know that song, but it's so different the way they're doing it. I don't know whether I can recognize it. Well, it's a piece written by James Weldon Johnson, and it is what African Americans refer to as the Black National Anthem. I call it the Nelson Mandela rendition of the anthem when he was released after 27 years of incarceration in a South African prison. And I was in a nightclub one night performing with one of the greatest drummers in the world, but I got a pretty good drummer sitting here tonight. Let's give him a round of applause. And his name is Billy Kilson, one of the great drummers in the world. And he was playing piano with a great piano player named Vince Evans, but I got a pretty good piano player here tonight. And they started playing, and I started singing Lift Every Voice. Now, the traditional version of Lift Every Voice is more like, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Well, I, as always, said, no, we got to change that for the next generation. We got to do something that demonstrates the horror of what we refer to as the Ma'afa. Our Jewish brothers and sisters have something called the Holocaust, but Africans have something called the Ma'afa. M-A-A-F-A. I want you to look it up. And it tells the story of the tragedies and the horrors. But in the middle of all that horror, there was great joy, triumph, exuberance, and resilience. And so I thought that my version of Lift Every Voice would have to capture that part of the Black experience and not have it stuck in the doldrums of slavery. But tonight, we're going to give you a kaleidoscope, a vision of a history that some people in this country are trying to erase. When we worked so damn hard at Oswego and other places to open up the eyes of all Americans, white, black, brown, straight, gay, old, young. And now I never thought in 2023 there would be movements to actually hide and camouflage and completely lose again this great rich history that is American history. Everything created in America, people of African descent has something to do with it. And so I was telling tonight before I came here, an old white guy came over to my table when the waitress said, he's gonna be singing tonight. He came over, he said, he's about 80. He said, hey brother, how you doing? He said, the hawk is out there tonight. I said, oh my God, he know about the hawk. I had just heard that phrase from my roommate. One of my roommates at Oswego was Jerry Seinfeld. And Jerry used to really laugh at me. And then recently on a TV show, he talked about how I would talk about the hawk. He didn't know what I was talking about. Well, for those of you in the audience that may not know either, this is a term black folks use for the wind and the weather. Oh, the hawk is kicking butt tonight. And so the old white guy was telling me, and I kept saying the hawk is out here tonight, and my white friends kept saying, where is he? Where is the hawk? He said they had no clue, so we were trying to eat our food so it would digest, so I could come over here and do a show, but we just listened to him. So he said, you know, and in the day, I used to call you all Negroes. He said, and now they tell me that's a bad word, that's a racist word. I said, well, let's look at it this way, because you know, when you're a teacher and when you're an activist, you don't never get a rest. You got to, you eating your dinner, you trying to eat your dinner and get over here to do this concert for you all. But then I said, no, what I'm gonna do is use the experience to educate and to tell my audience about this crazy mess. But he was a good guy. He said, but I don't know Larry, why they say Negroes? I said, well, where's your family from? He said, I don't know where we're from. I said, just think about it. Where's your mama from? He said, Germany. And your daddy? He said, I think, he said, England, I think he said. And I said, so you are Italian and English or Irish, and I'm a Negro. I said, how that work that you're an Italian, land, culture, language, and I'm a Negro? I said, where the hell is Negro land? He stopped. He stopped. I said, and is there a language called Negro? He stopped. I said, you see, my good friend, that was an American creation. I said, let me give you another quote by Dumas. And I never use this word, but I want to use it because I know that you're being sincere. I said, Henry Dumas said, the greatest and most pathetic role ever created in America was the role of the Negro. And the greatest fool and actor ever to play the role was a nigger. Then he really stopped. He said, oh, I didn't. Oh, well, do you like the food here? I said, oh, no. I said, I'm not finished. I said, I'm not finished. So then, when I was getting ready to really go into second gear, he said, I used to love to play bid whist. I said, oh, you know about bid whist? The only black folks know about. I said, oh, you used to play cards, bid whist? He said, yeah, man. Put his hand out to give me 5. So it was quite right. Am I right? You were there with me. It was quite a moment. But I used it in a constructive way as I'm using it today, because there's nothing that tells the story of our plight like the song by James Weldon Johnson and his brother Rosemond. When you think of the national anthem for the United States, and I mean no disrespect, but history is preface. The song talks about bombs bursting, and it talks about chasing down Negroes where they'll have no refuge. Read the 3rd verse of the national anthem. There'll be no refuge for you all. We will find you and we will kill you. Read the 3rd verse. You said, this man is... And so it puts a whole new context on Kaepernick. That we were telling him that he was being disrespectful, but the song, although you never hear people sing the 3rd verse, go back and look at the 3rd verse and see that word, no refuge will save you. Then I thought to myself, this is interesting because, and I didn't get this at Oswego, but I finally did get it. So at Oswego, when I was taking classes with some wonderful people, I had teachers to literally say to me during that period, I was in 1970, I would went to office hours when I was student teaching, and I went to my teacher's office hours. I'm not gonna say his name, Jen, don't worry about it, I'm not gonna do that. And I said, I need some help in testing, evaluation, measurements with statistics. And he looked me dead in the face. He said, Larry, let me be clear with you. Jack, you remember I told you this? I believe black people are genetically inferior. And if you don't get the mean on my exam, I'm going to fail you. Now, if once wasn't enough, then I was a history major and a secondary ed major. I went to another office hour to another teacher, and I was wanting help with some concepts about the Third Reich. And I started talking to him about some things I didn't understand. And he said, Larry, if you don't hand in a paper that's a good paper, because I believe that black people are genetically inferior, I'm going to fail you. In both instances, I challenged these men. Where did I get that courage from at 19 years old? Coming out of the inner city of Bedford-Stuyvesant, where did I get that courage from? Why did I stand up to them and say, I didn't come here for you to give me your political point of view. I came here for you to follow your professionalism as a teacher and help me with statistics. But then the next week, President Perdue, who was a wonderful man, had a party, a reception at his house for all the graduates. And I went to President Perdue's house, and one of the trustees said, "So why don't you all tell us about your experience at Oswego? Tell us what has happened." And I said, "Well, last week I went to an office hour of one of my professors to ask for help with statistics, and he told me he felt that black people were genetically inferior, and if I didn't get the mean on his exam, he was going to fail me." You saw heads dropping into the spaghetti or whatever we were eating, you know. People's heads start going down, and then you had some others bold. He's got to be lying. So I told the whole story, and a few months later, I think it was a few months, Dr. Perdue just listened. I saw that professor loading up his U-Haul truck, because they said, "Oh, he's up for tenure." And President Perdue looked around. I saw that man loading up his truck and moving his family back to Buffalo. We've lost that. As the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, "Some are guilty, but all are responsible." And everybody sitting in this audience tonight, everybody on this stage, has a responsibility to fight bias and to stop destroying young people in our public and our private institutions because of someone's viewpoint that is based on our white-centered privilege. Stop it. Speak up. Say something. But the contrast to that, as I tell storytelling, is when I went to my first class with psychology, and the teacher, a young woman, Dr. Sullivan, I'm going to say her name, she started talking about negative reinforcement and Piaget and all this stuff. And I said, "Oh my God, I am stupid." The things they said to me in high school when they told me, "We're not going to allow you to apply to a four-year college because in this era of affirmative action, they might admit you. We're not going to let you apply." This other remark was by a black teacher. "We're not letting you apply to no music school because we got enough singing and dancing Negroes. We need you to become a doctor." So music school was out. And I was walking through the guidance counselor's office and saw this brochure with trees and water. And it was Oswego. And I snuck and I applied to Oswego because people who are victims always try to go back to the scene of the crime. And I was going to go to college and become a teacher and to have another memory of being a teacher rather than the one I had had from some of these teachers. So in that psychology class that day, I was listening to Piaget and negative reinforcement. I left crying. I said, "They were right, I'm stupid." And then I took my butt to the library and I looked up negative reinforcement. I said, "Oh shit, that's what's been happening to me all my damn life in these public schools, negative reinforcement. Pavlovian dogs, stimulus and response." So as I was sitting the next day in class, that was a Wednesday, class was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:15. Dr. Sullivan, when I started going into it about what negative reinforcement and what it meant to me, and she stopped me. And she said, "I'd like you to teach the class on Friday." And I went home and I went to the library. I started breaking out books and reading Malcolm X's autobiography when he was trying to process his hair so his hair could be more like white folks' hair. We went through that phase. And I came to class that Friday. And I want you all to know, in those days, some of you may remember this. Class started 11:15. We were there until 3:30 at 3:45. No student got up and left or went to their other class. And we had real constructive interaction. And I don't know where Dr. Sullivan is today, but I thank her because that opened me up to realize that I was a whole human being, not 3/5 of a man, as the Constitution tells me at one point. to realize that Oswego was my new place, my new home. I'll sing about that a little later. And that's what I needed to move forward at Oswego. And I did. And so I thank Dr. Sullivan and many of those other teachers who really made that kind of a difference in my life. There was another teacher, I believe, if I don't get the name wrong, Betsy, if I get it wrong, yell at me. He's here tonight, I hope. It's Dr. David Hall in the history department. Huh? David King. I have a Hall and a King that were my professors who were incredible. And David King was teaching an advanced seminar in history. It was called Topics in European History, I believe. And I didn't want to take this class. I didn't want to take this class. But Betsy and several others, Betsy McTiernan, who's here tonight, who taught me how to write in the EOP program. And so I took this course, and we were reading a book by Peter Laslett. I teach about it all the time, called, I believe, The World We Have Lost. And it was a book about British history and how when agriculturalism left and the industrial period came in, there were customs and things that happened in England and Britain that were lost forever. And people kept searching for them the way some of us are now searching and trying to get around the TikTok generation. Trying to read a book. People don't do that anymore very much. And I read that book, and my brain opened. I understood that although we read history, we can't go back and have what we may have used to been accustomed to. And this was particularly important to me when we look at the great African kingdoms and the work that was being done, and Africans who had sailed the 7 seas while Europeans were not wearing shoes. And I thought, we have to understand that in terms of understanding authentic world history, but we may never be able to capture that literally, but we can go back and capture the spirit of what people, even in our lifetimes, have stood for. And so I can balance the bitter with the sweet. I can see both of those experiences occur for me here at Oswego. But I want to take you on a journey. When I left Oswego, my first job was at a maximum security prison, Auburn Correctional Facility. And I met a young man who was serving 25 years to life. And there I was, 21. And I saw myself in him and said, I'm going to have hopefully a full life. And he's going to be incarcerated for the rest of his life. And as I went into class, all of these brothers, I started quoting all of the great historians, Robert W. July and all of these Europeans who had written about Africa. And they said, boy, what the hell are you talking about? Have you read Du Bois? Have you read Carter G. Woodson? And they started in on me. I wasn't arrogant about it. I went home. There was no internet then. And I went to the library on the weekend, and I said, oh, shoot. No one ever told me about W.B. Du Bois. No one ever told me about Carter G. Woodson, who started Black History Month and wrote a great book called The Miseducation of the Negro, that everybody, whether you come from Negro descent or stock or not, need to read The Miseducation of the Negro, because a whole lot of white folks have been miseducated also. And that book, written over 100 or so years ago, is still quite relevant. And I began to read about our sojourn. And I think this song and the title of this concert tonight, one of the titles, will help you understand what we all have experienced. We came from a distant land. Our lives already planned. We came in ships from across the sea. we never see. And here we are, American fruit with African roots. They made us work from morn to night, never giving human rights. Though time passed on, we did endure. Children sick, no doctors to cure. What is to become of thee, American fruit with African roots? How are we to know where this road would lead? That our blood would shed all because of the color of our skin, being black. They made us work from morn till night, never giving us human rights. Though time passed on, things remain the same. Black babies born with no last names. And here we are, American fruit with African roots. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children. Wade in the water, God's gonna trouble the water. When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Pharaoh, Pharaoh, let my people go. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go.
Tell go. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go.
Time has come for us to join hands and never be punished by the rules of this land. Now that we're aware of what we must do, no longer afraid, no longer a fool. Now that we are, well, African justice. We will not run down to racism. I just cannot tolerate injustice. What you gonna do? I'm gonna stand. 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 I want you to give my band a round of applause. Aren't they incredible? The cornerstone and the core of African descent musical expression is improvisation. And all that you just heard and saw was really not rehearsed. So let's give these guys and women an incredible round of applause. That means we're in touch with one another through our hearts. Everything I did, they were listening intently because we're telling stories tonight. And we're telling stories that are uncensored. Which brings me now to my tribute to Oswego. I have to say that when we traveled here to Oswego from Brooklyn, my uncle and aunt chose to come with me, and my mother and father. And my uncle said, how long is it gonna take us to get up there? My father said, oh, Jesse, about 8 hours or 9 hours or something. My uncle said, hell no, ain't no place you can go in New York City 8 hours. It's gonna take about 2.5 hours. We'll be there from New York City about 2.5 hours. So 7.5 hours later, we were pulling into Oswego, 7.5, 8 hours. And my father looked around and my uncle, and my father said, where the black people? And my uncle said, oh, just go down by the Greyhound bus station. Just go down by the river. They'll all be down there hanging out. We drove back and forth by the Oswego alleged river where the boats would come in, where the Greyhound bus was. And we ain't see no Kunta Kintes. We ain't see nothing that looked black at all, but the sidewalks, they weren't even black. So we made our way up on campus, and now my mother got nervous. She said, now I know why they admitted you. You the only one. And so, since I applied late, they had me on Lakeside, because all the black people who were new to Oswego, they put them over in the new dorms. So they had all the black people over in Onondaga and Cayuga and all of those, and a few black people in Hart, few black people over there, but there were no black people over in Scales where I was, except maybe 1 or 2. Next year was a few more. And so as we were over on the lakeside, I saw thousands, seemed like 1,000 people walking down the campus. And my mother found and observed a big afro in the crowd. It was a female. And she broke through the crowd, pushing people out the way. And I was like 17 and such a wimp. And she took my hand and she took it to the young sister and put it to the, y'all stay together. So the young woman, I've got to find her name out one day, she said, no, ma'am. There'll be more black people here tomorrow. So then we went into Scales and we went upstairs to my room, and my roommate had already moved in. He was a milk farmer. And so he wasn't there. And so we said, well, let's go get something to eat. Let's go get lunch. So we went downstairs, we went to get lunch. We came back, he still wasn't there. So then after a while, he arrived with his mom. And my aunt, who's a very Southern girl, she was like, hello, how you doing? And his mother looked, and she said, come along. I'm not gonna say his name either. Come along. And she said his name. And they went over to housing, and she made it clear that her son was not gonna live with a, you know. And housing said, well, then you need to take your son home. So then, that was back in the 70s, y'all. Where's the courage today? Where's the courage? So he came back over, and my mother and my aunt said when she did that, oh, my Aunt Betty, my late Aunt Betty, you can say what you want to say. My nephew belongs as much as you do. And I had never heard Aunt Betty mention more than 2 words in her life. But she understood this, and that's why she had been quiet. You know, James Baldwin said to be Negro in America and to be relatively conscious of is to be enraged almost all the time. You can say what you want. He gonna be here. So then my mother started crying, and they went to leave, and my mother came over to me and hugged me and said, please don't let them white boys run you down by that lake. Don't go down by that lake. Please don't go down by that lake. So they got in the car. I remember the scene right now. They were driving off, and my mother was looking out the back window because the two women were sitting in the back and the two men in the front, and my mother was waving. And I wept and cried. I'd never seen my mother so afraid. And we were in the Bedford-Stuyvesant in the ghetto. But she had grown up in the South. So that night, being from the hood, okay, somebody give me some support here. I'm gonna tell this story. I'm telling all of the stories, the discussable ones and the undiscussable ones. I went back in the room. I said, hey, Bruce, let's go for a walk. Oh, I said his name. He was a good friend. So we walked around, across the way from Scales. And when we got in the middle of the field, I guess it was a soccer field or a hockey field or something, I turned around and knocked the shit out of Bruce. Bam! And he hit the floor. He said, why did you do that? I said, because I'm not going to be in the room with nobody who's a racist, don't want me living there, and I'm in the middle of the night trying to sleep, and you trying to mess with me, you trying to cut my throat, and I just went into a soliloquy. Bruce said, that's not me, that's my mom. I'm happy you're my roommate. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. So I brushed him off and helped him to get up. I said, I'm sorry I hit you, but I had no conflict resolution skills then. You just had to beat somebody's ass when they did some stuff like that to you. That's what you had to do. And so we became friends. And when Thanksgiving rolled around, rather than going all the way back to New York, his mother called me and invited me to their house for Thanksgiving. I said, oh, shit. So we drove down to Amsterdam, and we went to his house, and we got there, and his mother said, oh, hi, Larry. You have to excuse me. I'm just not used to this. I said, used to what? She said, I said, and so we came in the house, and then he decided he was going out with his girlfriend, and so he left me there that night with his mother, and me and his mother had wonderful conversations. Y'all have to excuse me. I got on this fabulous outfit that my incredible percussionist gave me as a gift. But these pants, baby, you got to watch them, because if that string slips, this will be another kind of show. So, but anything for fashion, you got to do what you got to do. So that night, me and his mother stopped and we sat and talked. And his mother said, Larry, I need your help. I need you to look out for my son. And blah, 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 blah. I won't go into all of the details. And I said, sure. And so later on, the next night when he came in, he took me to a high school party they were having. And there was one black girl in the town, poor child. And all the white students came and knew him and took my hand and ran over to her, like my mama did with the black girl on campus, and put us together. You two need to be together. She had no date for the prom, but I didn't take her. I wasn't coming back down to Amsterdam for that. But I remember that. Well, anyway, that turned out to be a different kind of relationship than I thought it would be. And so all of those, well, then the next day people arrived, and I met all these different people, and I met all these black students on the other side of campus. And I remember coming into the old Hewitt Union, and the black students, I'm not gonna mention their names either, we're gonna burn this mother down. And I was sitting there from Bedford-Stuyvesant looking at these fiberglass curtains, and I ain't gonna burn this. This is a brick building. We're gonna burn it down tomorrow. We're gonna burn it down. I was like, oh, these people, I'm scared. But there was a sentiment in the air that people were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then I began to meet all kind of wonderful people on campus. And you know what? I'm still in contact with many of those people today. And one of the white guys I met in the dorm, who was so nice to me and such a brother, is sitting in the front row, Jack Carr. And we were so lonely at times, black students on campus, and Jack one time let me borrow his mother's, was it a Lincoln Continental or Ford? What was it? It was a big car. It was a huge, big car. It was one of them big cars. And me and these brothers, Lord, with racial profiling, we wouldn't have a chance today. We drove to Syracuse, Jack's blessing, to go to a frat party or something. And it was 6 of us. Can you imagine driving down 81 and 57 with 6 big 6'3" Negroes in a car? Now, I guess it's okay here at the new change. I saw black people walking down the street in Oswego, almost had a heart attack. They were walking down the street freely and living, it's a different world, different world. And we drove to the party in Syracuse and party. Being young and stupid, it was 12 o'clock. Jack could have the car back by midnight. And they went, come on, Larry, can we stay a little long? Can we stay a little long? Please. So we stayed long till like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then I drove back to Oswego and I said, oh God. And Jack was standing at the door. I don't believe you did this to me. I trusted you, and I felt bad for 40 years. Every time I see Jack, I apologize to him, but he's not giving up on me. He's here tonight, and I thank him, and I thank him for his long friendship. I had told all the brothers in the car, like I told my band coming up here, there are no drugs in this car, right? No, no drugs. There are no guns in this car, right? No, no, no. We got back to Oswego, one of them brothers had a whole bag of reefer. I was so done mad with him, I could have beat him to death, but it all worked out. So I'm gonna do this song I wrote, and I wanna dedicate it to all of you, but particularly for all the wonderful people at the State University College at Oswego in the day, there, and now. And Trevor and all the people who've helped me put this show together have been just tremendous. Let's give them all a round with Jerry Jaworski. A round of applause. These songs are all of my original songs with the exception of American Fruit with African Roots. That was written by Zulema Couchot, but it's my arrangement. But when I sing this song about I'm on my way home, I'm coming home, I want all of you to think that home is where the heart is at the time. And we all in this life, if we're fortunate, have an extended family. And Betsy Arletta McTiernan and Jack Carr and many of you are my extended family. So I never thought coming back to Oswego would be this emotional. I'm a 6'3" black man, but I'll weep and cry in a minute and then be ready to beat somebody down if I have to. So I'm gonna try to get through the song with the help of my great singers. It goes something like that. And I want you to listen to it in the words and think about your own life. Here we go. Like a bird, I had flown away out of this web of life, trying to find my way. Just searching and running and searching, trying to belong, trying to belong. But with every step I took along the way, oh, my Heavenly Father was right here, right there by my side. Through the pain and the sorrow, broken dreams and broken hearted, I returned to a place where there is love. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. coming home. Been in relationships, not knowing what to find. I was so sure that true love would never be found. Just searching and running and running and searching and running and searching, trying to belong, trying to belong. But with every step I took along the way, Jesus Christ was right by my side. Once was lost, but now I'm found. In darkness, but now there is light. Returning to the place, I've returned to the place where there is love. I'm coming home.
I'm coming home.
I'm coming on home.
I'm coming home.
No matter what, I'm coming home. No matter what,
I am coming. I'm coming home.
yes I am.
Coming home. I'm coming home.
I'm coming on a home, yeah.
Coming home. I'm coming home.
On my way back home.
Coming home. I'm coming home.
Well.
Coming home. Coming home. I'm coming home. Coming
I'm coming on no matter what, I'm coming home. Oswego is one of those homes. I want to also thank you, pay gratitude to these wonderful singers from Oswego who are all current students at the institution. And they've been so diligent in learning this music, and I feel a real closeness to them. So let's give the Oswego Gospel Choir another round of applause. I'm gonna do a song now, but my butt done got old. I'm gonna have to borrow the bass player's bench here for a minute. I'm gonna do a song for all of our parents. Here, let me get that. Sure, I ain't trying to be cute and be done fell up here. Okay. You know, it's kind of like, well, you see, I had to use that bench. You sit for, you stand for a while, then I'll give it back to you. We'll share it. I told my band, if I don't get through this song, they're to help me out. It's called Kings and Queens, and it's a dedication to my parents and your parents and grandparents. I realize that everything I've done in my life thus far has been to please and honor my mom and my father. My father used to love to come up and visit Oswego, and all my great friends, my father knew them all. I hope that some of them who are the great Howard Gordon, who is just been through a challenge, and we send him love and we honor him. And John Harris, who was one of my other roommates, and his late wife, Carmel, who was one of my dearest friends. My father loved talking to them. And some of the stories I can't tell you because they're not appropriate. But there was a lot of funny stuff that happened. Like when my father's car, he thought was, somebody said, your car leaking oil. Oh, John, please forgive me for this. And John jumped down on the floor. My father said, and before he did, John touched it and said, that ain't oil, Mr. Watson. Well, my father had to let out some water. And before he knew it, he did it. And before he could stop John, being honorable and help, jumped down. My father laughed for 3 weeks. My father laughed, that's that dozens. John, if you watch this on simulcast, I love you, brother, but my father laughed. He said, oh, that good old John. Lord, he was trying to help me out. Lord, that good old John. Unbelievable. So, most of us who attended Oswego in those days, Betsy knows this and many others, we were poor kids from the inner cities of Rochester and Syracuse and Long Island and Brooklyn and the Bronx. We didn't have anything. And so this was really a different kind of atmosphere. And the people at the EOP Center were so helpful. Hubert Smith and all of his staff, George Buggs, who I talked with originally, and all of my wonderful friends, Greg Aletta, and many people who were associated, and the founders, the ones that came first, Mo Haskins and Lonnie, and the list just goes on. And I hope I don't offend anybody. I love you all, and I just can't, all the names are too many to remember. But when I did this album called American Fruit with African Roots, this song I wrote is still very important to me, and I hope it's important to you all too, particularly to those people, black and brown people, who know how their parents have struggled to put them through these institutions. In many instances, they were predominantly white institutions, because the black institutions didn't have that new money Lyndon Baines Johnson and others had released. And so we weren't going there because they had their own folks. They wasn't paying for jack. But here we had EOP and HEOP, and that's why I call this concert the song of the Swan song of a black swan and an affirmative action baby. I am very proud that because of affirmative action programs that I was allowed through EOP and others to come. Because let me tell you something, we were always smart. I knew I was smart. The teachers were dumb. Alice Haley's father, when I left Cornell, when I left Oswego, my first job was in that maximum security prison. Let me finish that story, because I dedicate this performance to this young man. His name was Paul. I'm not going to say his full name. He was serving 20 years to life. And years later, I went from Oswego to working at Auburn Prison. I left Auburn Prison. Always, I left jobs under fire. I wanted to do my graduate work at Cornell University because of Paul and those black brothers in the prison who said to me, Negro, what is your problem? You don't know about W. Du Bois, you don't know about J. Rogers, you don't know what Dr. Ben Juckenjuckenutton, you don't know about Dr. John Henry Clark, you don't know about, and they went through the list. And I decided to do my graduate work at Cornell University under the tutelage of the great and the late Dr. James Turner, who was an incredible scholar and ushered so many young people through Cornell University. And his great wife, one of my dear friends that was supposed to be here tonight, Dean Janice Turner, who sent so many people to medical school. Real legacies. And so I went to the Africana Studies and Research Center, and I did my thesis on Joel Augustus Rogers. Anybody in the audience know who Joel Augustus Rogers? He wrote over 15 books, self-made man, and Du Bois and all of them were like, really, they were intimidated by the great original research he had done, but he didn't have that formal credential. Now, I want you all to know, being Larry Watson from Brooklyn, for me to do a graduate thesis at Cornell, Ivy League on Joel Augustus Rogers was a trip, because here I was honoring a man without the formal credentials at Cornell University. So y'all know I caught hell. You know I caught hell, even from the black people, because the black folks were so busy trying to be palatable to some of the administrators and scholars at the institution. So when I wrote my thesis, and I'm not going to go long with these stories, but telling the stories is important, they were taking too long to read my dissertation, my thesis. So I went ahead and wrote the whole damn thing. Well, they were running around the country lecturing and stuff. I ain't never been late for no graduation. So I wrote the whole thesis and submitted it and went away on a vacation. So when I got back, I was in the room. I'm not going to mention all of the people on the committee. And they said, well, Larry, we're happy that you finished it, but now we see what you did, and we're not happy. So your chapter 2, and the title of it was J. Rogers' Contribution to History, African American History. They said, you're going to have to remove chapter 2. Chapter 2 was 250 pages. How the hell are you going to remove chapter 2 and just move everything up? That meant I had to write the whole thing over. Oh, the ghetto came out in that thesis meeting. I started cracking. I said, yeah, if I was some high yellow W.B. Du Bois, just ignorant. I was just ignorant. You wouldn't do this to me. Da, 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 da. So one of the professors took the bait, and he was like right in there with me. And the late Dr. James Turner said, go to the library, work on it, and we'll see you in a month. Straight up. He didn't blink an eye. So I left the office, and I was in the library in the lobby crying. And this little white girl, she was looking and she wanted to do something to help, so she kind of inched over with a tissue. And she reached out to give it to me. I took the tissue, wiped my eyes, I was weeping. And so I went back and started 5 o'clock in the morning, doing research and writing from 5 to 8:30. And then I'd run to class because I was teaching in a public school summer school program. Then I'd get off work at 2 o'clock and go back and write from 2 to 11 at night. I was going to finish it. And I did finish it. But this is the powerful thing about it. I dedicated the thesis to many people, including my mom, the only little black sister working at a Jewish kosher bakery in Brooklyn. And I dedicated it to Dr. Gitlin, who was the professor here at at Oswego, who most influenced my life. And I want to be in contact with him so desperately. I hope he's still with us, Dr. Arthur Gitlin, who he played such a role in my life. And so, and I dedicated it and then I put the brothers, or either I gave them a copy of my thesis. Now, y'all know in those days, you had to type a thesis on a typewriter. And you made 4 or 5 copies. 2 had to go to graduate school, library, and then you gave one to your mom and your daddy, and you had one. Well, I gave 2 or 3 of them to the brothers in the prison. Okay, let's fast forward. Many years later, I went from Auburn Prison to doing my graduate work at Cornell. When I graduated from Cornell, I became dean for the senior class at Cornell at 24, and then the people started calling me Disco Dean because I was still young. I had to go out and party on the weekends. And so the students said, hey, Disco Dean, it was fine. I loved it. And then they started writing articles saying, Dean, he sunlights as a dean, and he moonlights as a jazz singer. I said, we ain't gonna do no more of those articles. That's done. And so I left Oswego, did my graduate work, left the graduate work, started teaching, taught at Boston College, taught at Springfield College, taught at Art Institute of Boston and Lesley College, and then I got an appointment at Berklee College of Music. But when I left Harvard, you all can, I was with Derek Bell, who was a great activist from the law school who resigned and gave up his tenure because the law school at Harvard didn't have any black women. And so he wrote a report that I assisted with. I was his assistant, shall we say, called The Last Report. And he wrote this report saying that one day there was an explosion at Harvard on the centennial of W. Du Bois's matriculation, and all the black people were killed. So he said, now that all the black people are killed, are y'all gonna close Harvard since you keep saying you can't find us? We can't find black faculty. We can't find Latino. He said, so what you gonna do now? We're all dead. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna find people or are you gonna close Harvard? It's still online. It's called The Final Report. Y'all should read it. And then what we did is we interviewed deans and faculty at the institution, and we did like War of the Worlds. We used their actual testimony in terms of this allegorical tragedy. And so you had deans saying things like, well, you know, sometimes it's a complete slam dunk when you meet the right black person or woman to be put into one of these jobs. So they were using all kind of basketball metaphors and foolishness. It was crazy. You should read it. All of the documentation is there. Well, that shocked Harvard and shocked a whole lot of people. And so I eventually left Harvard, not by choice. And Derek Bell died, but on his wife's deathbed, she said, you take care, Larry. You stick by him, and he did. Well, many years later, when I left Harvard, Professor Charles Ogletree, who was one of my best friends, he's the lawyer that defended Anita Hill, he appointed me as the resident artist at the Harvard Law School. And he had me singing in the moot courtroom, so y'all can get this. I'd sing a gospel song or something before these scholars came to speak, and Lord, did some of the black people in Boston were just done, that he had me up there in the moot courtroom. Soon I will be done with the troubles of the world. I'd be singing before when the speakers got up and speak. And when I say speakers, I'm talking about Supreme Court justices. I'm talking about all these people. Well, anyway, this is the end of the story. A young woman was a law student there, and she went home and said, Daddy, I think the man you raised us talking about is the resident artist at the Harvard Law School. It was Paul. His sentence had been commuted by the governor. Whew. He didn't serve 25 years to life. He got out and married a doctor, and they had several children, 2 children, I believe. And his daughter was at the Harvard Law School and the business school. And she told her daddy about me, and one day I got a call, hello, Lottie, is this Paul? Well, we had a reunion and went out to dinner, and he must have thought, y'all, you see me now? I boo-hooed and wept at that dinner. I think Paul said, oh, this man is crazy. And when my mother was admitted with Alzheimer's to a nursing home, I called Paul just on my way back to drive back to Boston, and he said, why don't you stop by the house? And I stopped by the house, and I was a wreck. I was just so depressed and so emotional. And he said, hold on, before you leave, I got something for you. And he went upstairs, and he came back downstairs, and he had a black book. You ever know when you see something and your heart starts to beat fast, the adrenaline was flowing? And I said, what? And he said, shut up and just look at it and read what you wrote inside. It was my graduate thesis. He had kept it all those years, and his kid said, we had fires in the house or water damage. Daddy would get that book fixed, and he always talked about it. So you see, all of that goes back to Oswego, and that's how my first job out of Oswego was at Auburn Prison, because a man named Mr. Hinton knew somebody here at Oswego, and that's how I got that first job. So I became resident artist at the Harvard Law School, and I reunited my good brother Paul, and Paul's daughter has graduated from the Harvard Law School and the business school. So here's that song, Kings and Queens. All of my life, I've maintained my integrity, and it's cost me a job, some friends, and scars you'll never see, but the sacrifice been worth it. I've got the victory. Each of us must really believe we are a part of this great legacy. We've come from a line of kings and queens. Nothing is worth our dignity. Mama and daddy worked their fingers to the bone, bought a house and some land, something that they could call their own. Yes, the sacrifice was worth it. They planted the seed. Each of us must really believe we are a part of this great legacy. We've come from a line of kings and queens. Nothing is worth our dignity. We've come from a powerful breed. People died so we be free. How can you buck this and cheese? The saints are screaming at you. Stop playing the buffoon. There's a generation with distinction looking for direction from you. Each of us must really believe we are a part of this great legacy. We've come from a line of kings and queens. Nothing is worth our dignity. One more time. Each of us must really believe we are a part of this legacy. We've come from a line of kings and queens. Nothing is worth our dignity.
Kings and queens, legacy.
Wow. I got through it. This next piece I dedicate to another good friend I lost and we lost. She was a graduate of Oswego. Her name was the late Terry Hess. She was an educator and she committed her life to young people from all backgrounds. She lived in Connecticut and she was a real trailblazer. And we won one year the National Award in Connecticut for this diversity project where we wrote the song with her children, with her, called Differences. And so we want to show you a brief little film of Terry Hess and these children. And if somebody in the audience has a grandson or a cousin, or they recognize one of these kids, they were 13 and 11 when we did this, please let me know what they're doing at the end of the film. But it goes something like this. Are we going to be able to do it? Here we go. Here's Differences. No film? Hopes and dreams that we share. We got to live and give and lend a helping hand. Diversity. Communities unite when the children try. Past those differences and look inside. We're finding out that there's nothing to hide. We all seem different, called by different names. Oh yeah.
We all are different.
Inside we all the same. Break it down. Terry Hess put this program together and we wrote this song together. And Connecticut, this area of Bridgeport and Westport, had a court order to integrate. It was one of the most racist, institutionally racist parts of this country. And Terry worked hard with other teachers and community leaders. And in this studio, the Paul Newman Foundation paid for the recording session. I had students at Berkeley who performed with me. The producer was from Hungary, Miklos Malik, who worked with me on this CD. And I heard later from Terry that when they decided to integrate Bridgeport and Westport by having the students to go one way always from Bridgeport to Westport, they sent a bus to get these black and brown children every day. And all the genius educators in the world, they named the bus 9/11. They named the bus bringing the black people into Westport the 9/11 bus. But it didn't stop her or her efforts to make a difference. And I send my loving best wishes to her husband, who was really pleased that I was going to, in this concert tonight, honor an educator who didn't try to censor books, Miss Terry Hess. Let's give her a round of applause in terms of our memory of her. And the one line in the song that makes all the difference is, it says, all for one, one for all, we will stand to the end. Divided we fall. I want y'all to sing that with me. All for one, one for all, we will stand to the end. Divided we fall. Now before you start singing, break it down. January 6th destroyed me. I gave up my optimism for a moment. I thought, where are all the good people? They're not saying anything. That democracy is under attack. People are tearing down the Capitol. And I knew that if black and brown folks would have been out there protesting at the Capitol, we'd have still been scraping up brain matter off the steps of the Capitol. People were actually shitting on Nancy Pelosi's office desk. I said, where are all the good people, like many of the good people I met at Oswego? Was all this work by David King and all the people that we work with, was that in vain? Where are the people? All for one, one for all, we will stand to the end, divided we fall.
All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
Oh, yes.
All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall. All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
Give Brandon a round of applause. Let's hear the Oswego Gospel Choir. Come on, y'all. Sing that for me right now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and.
All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall. All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
Join in, my singers.
All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
Please sing it with us.
All for one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
Divided we fall.
For one for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
Divided we fall.
One for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall. One for all, we will stand till the end. Divided we fall.
You know, folks, I know I've gone over my TikTok time, but sometimes we got to sit and just be about the collective, be about the idea that music in its history and sojourn was about healing people, even when the subject matter may have been tough to swallow at times. So I appreciate you all coming out and sharing this night with me. I didn't realize it was going to be as emotional as it is in terms of coming back and reliving many of the positive memories as well as some that were not as positive. But I thank you all for that. And we're going to do a few more pieces here, and then we're going to let you go. But I wanted to tell a full story of my life here and in the work that I do. And next we're going to do, Yes. We're going to do this and dedicated to Bonnie Raitt, because she won last night. At her age, she won a Grammy in the midst of all of this soot. Now, I'm gonna try to be cool because I know the time is going, and I'm like a preacher. I'm like a black preacher. I don't know when to stop, but I'm censoring myself, believe it or not, you all. But I want to say to all of you who saw the Grammys, how many saw the Grammys last night? Well, that says a lot. But whoever saw it, please approach me after the show, 'cause I want to understand why the Grammy Awards allowed Jay-Z and them other fools to do 8 minutes of a simulation of the Last Supper. Am I wrong? Is that it was unbelievable. And when I talk about all for one and one for all and how we've got to demonstrate a level of leadership, we got to speak out on all of this stuff. Why offend so many people in the world by challenging symbols that are important to some people? You can be whatever you want to be, maybe, but the point is, and I say maybe because privilege to do that kind of stuff rests with a level of power that a lot of people don't have in terms of who's censored and who's not. But I didn't understand that, and so I want somebody later on to come up and explain that to me as I saw that. Jason, who's a great singer and sax player, let's give Jason an applause. He was saying, why did they do that? And I'm still perplexed about it. So we're going to dedicate this to Bonnie Raitt, who was one of the only authentic people who won an award last night. There were some others that made the runner-up list and some performances by icons that we already know are great, but there was a lot of foolishness. And so I want to, being a musicologist, being a voice teacher, I want to dedicate this to Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Big Mama Thornton and all those black blues artists and others who many of them died without teeth in their mouth, while Mick Jagger has Picasso's and other kind of paintings in his home. I want to dedicate this song, which says, that ain't fair, that people, and so Bonnie Raitt comes to mind because she started the Rhythm Blues Foundation, and she took all those brothers with no teeth in their mouth, no health insurance, and she put them on tour with her. You know, Bonnie Raitt went to Harvard, and she left Harvard to go down to the Delta South and to look up some of those artists that had been forgotten. And she put them on the front row in her concert, and she had all of her audience to acknowledge these people. This song is called Liar. It says, you're an Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Cher, Madonna, Michael Bolton thief. You stole my scatting. Hell to the no. No, Miss Billie Eilish. No. You're not gonna take what we worked so hard to build. Motown, Barry Gordon, B.B. King, Aretha Franklin, and sully it with mediocrity. Here we go. You're an Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Cher, Madonna, Michael Bolton thief. You stole my scam, jabbing, gospel, rapping, ragtime, dancing, hooks, and all of my beats. Then you labeled it crossover, writing it down, thinking that the farce would last. Well, you took the time and created my music, and then you called it math. You're a liar and a cheat, a conniver and a thief. You're a liar and a cheat, a conniver and a thief. You documented and recycled all my music, turning it to math. And I could take you, suck my hell, your Hartman, Billy, and Aretha and James Brown. Then you labeled it crossover, writing that down and thinking that this farce would last. Well, no matter how you try to recreate it, don't you know that Memorex didn't last and neither will you? You're a liar and a cheat, a conniver, dirty beast. You're a liar and a cheat, a conniver, dirty beast. Come on, boy. The voices of the dead are lying in the air. They want back what you stole. All that glitters ain't gold. What became before, you cannot ignore, not ignore. Hey. conniver and a thief. You're a liar and a cheat. A conniver, dirty beast. Come on, Utah. Brother, stand up on the drums. Stand up. Let them see who you are. Come on, baby. Oh, and piano. Stand up, baby. We're almost there, folks. I want these players to introduce themselves by name because I want you to remember the name because these are some folks that's going places, okay? Don't even try it, okay? Don't play me. Play pool. Play basketball.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jason Hunter. I'm on saxophone. I'll be singing also.
Hello, my name is Utar Artun. I'm a pianist, arranger, composer, and educator.
Hi, my name is Youngchae Jung from South Korea. I'm playing bass.
Hello, my name is Vlad Aguigny. I'm from the Dominican Republic.
Hello, my name is Sidi Maiga. I'm from Mali.
I'm Brandon Schmidt, playing the guitar. Glad to be here tonight.
Brandon was sent to us by the Oswego music department, the faculty there. And I am so proud of him because on this gig, he has come into his own and he is playing his butt off. And this, as me as an educator, makes me so proud of what he's doing. Go ahead, brother. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dvora Johnson. My name is Asher Tate. Athene Wilson.
And my singers from the gospel choir left, but they'll be back. This next song we're going to do right now is where the civil rights movement is headed right now. It's where the civil rights movement is headed right now. And I want you all to understand reparations. It's a song I wrote about 20 years ago. And I've jumped the gun. I've gone out of order, so I'm apologizing beforehand. And so I'll give them a moment to get things set up. I want y'all to see this video footage. We're almost at the end of the concert. But I want y'all not to forget the murders of black, brown men and women in this country is very real. We're watching our children perish. We're watching a fear that has overtaken the land. I'm teaching at Berkeley and I have a young student from China. He says, Professor Watson, I never leave my house. I'm afraid I'll be murdered in America. He says, so I go to classes, I take my classes on Zoom, and then I go in the house and my parents make me promise that I won't go out in the streets. Folks, is this the America we know? Is this the, somebody said, yep. And I want you all to think about that. I want you to think about as you sit comfortably in your own home, think about your brother and sister and be their keeper. It is something that is so devastating to wake up every morning, and I feel for young people who just have almost a blank look on their faces at times because there are no words left to say. There are no words left to say. So reparations is the humiliation and degradation of our nation. And Jason's gonna bring you this song, and it's simple, and it's like a nursery rhyme. And while people in Florida and Georgia are trying to censor certain material being covered in the curriculum, you're setting yourselves up for failure. I've been to China about 15 times. And while I was in China running a school that failed because Tangerine Man, Agent Orange, I'm sorry y'all, he decided to have a trade war, and so my school closed. But while I was there, when you go to step on an escalator, it wouldn't move until you put your foot on it. Then the escalator would start to move. I was on the rapid train, 350 miles an hour, through the countryside of the country, China. And all I saw was farms and solar energy on the top of homes. I saw no old cars. And people say, yes, well, they were hiding that from you. I went 5 hours on the train going 350 miles an hour. I went to 15 cities. China has improved poverty astronomically. Does that mean they're not problems? Yeah, there are problems, but you try to walk down the street of Boston and some other place and see all the homeless people and all of the young people who are shooting up drugs. I used to be concerned about that in Brooklyn and Bedford-Stuyvesant. Now it's all in the suburbs. It's everywhere. My brother went to jail for many years for being a drug addict. Now we're picking drug addicts up off the street and seeing it as a disease rather than seeing him as a criminal. The judge in his case, a Supreme Court justice, said, you're an embarrassment. He was a black judge. You're an embarrassment to the black community. You think that you can come in my courtroom and have letters from your minister and letters from your doctor and letters from your employer that you're going to get off? Hell no. He said, if you tell me you did it, this is at sentencing. If you tell me you did it, we can work something out. My brother said, but I didn't. The judge wanted my brother to lie at sentencing. That same judge, this is about storytelling, I'm gonna be through in a second. He was caught doing the Humpty dance on the district attorney's desk. Y'all know what the Humpty dance is, don't you? So my other brother called me and said, oh, Judge such and such was caught having sex with the district attorney. I said, send me the article, please. Just send it to me. And I wrote him and I said, who has embarrassed the black community now? Have you heard of Emmett Till? And I wrote him. And then the next day I got a call from his law clerk. I'm not making this up, y'all. And she said, this Supreme Court judge, Larry, don't you say his name, is going to be in Boston and he'd like to have lunch with you. All my friends who graduated from law school said, you can't write that kind of letter to a Supreme Court judge. I said, watch me, as James Brown said, watch me. So then I called my good friend, Professor Charles Ogletree, who now has full-blown Alzheimer's, but he was my saving grace in this kind of craziness. And I said, he's the one that defended Anita Hill, if you all remember, if you're old enough. I said, Charles, I understand Supreme Court, blah, 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 blah. is going to be in Cambridge or Boston tomorrow. He said, oh, he's coming over to speak to the Harvard law students. I said, well, you know, that's the one that did that to my brother and lectured my black parents about the embarrassment of the middle class. He said, send me the material. I sent the material, and them law students tore a new asshole in him. So we met that afternoon, the next day for lunch. So he walked in, he shook my hand. I thought he was gonna break my hand. Lord, he shook my hand, and the sheikh said, boy, if I wasn't a judge, I'd beat your ass down right in here right now. But that didn't, so I looked at him and I said, I want you to know that I don't regret anything I said. The humiliation you put my parents through in that courtroom, and the only middle class people in that courtroom was you and the other white lawyers. So he started crying. Oh, I tell it, y'all. I said, your crocodile tears will not help you now. I meant everything I said. But with the bitter comes the sweet. When I left that meeting with him, he divulged a lot of personal stuff that he was going through. He wrote a letter from my brother, and my brother spent the last year of his situation in a halfway house. So I want people to have courage to speak the unspeakable, to discuss the undiscussable. Here's the song Reparations.
Fair warning here, the pictures you're about to see are graphic.
Outrage last night in the streets of Oakland.
Police is getting away with murder. And out in the streets, they talk about they serve and protect us. They don't serve and protect us, they kill us.
During the scuffle, one officer, later identified as Johannes Messerly, pulls his gun and shoots Grant.
And it turned violent.
Christy, something happened a long time ago in Haiti, and people may not want to talk about it. They were under the heel of the French.
And it turned violent.
You know, Napoleon III and whatever. And they got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, we will serve you if you'll get us free from the French. It's a true story. And so the devil said, okay, it's a deal. And they kicked the French out. You know, the Haitians revolted and got themselves free.
And it turned violent.
But ever since, they have been cursed by one thing after the other, desperately poor.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up.
People are looking over to the United States today, and they're wondering what we're doing about this problem.
Well, you and I have been sitting long enough, and it's time today for us to start doing some standing.
Price that the United States must pay.
It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody.
We've been the poor
We must act now.
and the used, the disdained and abused.
Sing along when y'all get the chorus, all right?
Walking while black, SWB, standing while black. The
time is now.
Don't think I've forgotten what you've done to me. Bombing, castrations, lynchings, and killings are part of my reality. This just can't go on. I won't be your slave, butler, nanny, Negro, quick trade driver, or your maid. I want the land without your urban plans. Promise was made, now it's time to be paid. Right here, y'all, right here for the African nation. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, we're losing our patience. Oh, can't you see I'm determined to be free? fight all the hell you raise till the people will survive. I know we can turn a nation around. You can pay your debt with interest, and a new black nation will be found. Hey, come on, y'all, everybody, sing along with this chorus for the African nation. For Africa, hey, come on now.
Declaration of our nation.
We will be free, no longer in poverty. One God, one aim, one destiny. Y'all, the time is now. We don't need to wait any longer for this. We've had plenty of years, hundreds of years while this has been going on. Reparations is a must, y'all. Things going on in California, these lynchings and killings and all that. I've been the rivers, I've climbed mountains, I've walked through the valley, I've been blocked from fountains, and I won't be found, y'all. Say it one more time, but I never, never turn back.
We want reparation.
Tell them what we want. We want reparation. I said that we want reparation. Oh yeah.
We want reparation.
We want oh say 40 acres, 40 acres, 40 acres, 40 acres and I'll do 40 acres, 40 acres, 40 acres, 40 acres and I'll do 40 acres, 40 acres, 40 acres, 40 acres and I'll do. Y'all said 40.
We want reparation. For the African nation. Compensation.
40 acres and 40.
We want reparation.
40
For the African nation.
40 acres.
Compensation.
Soon we'll all be free, y'all. Come on, y'all. We want reparations.
African nation.
We want reparations.
We want reparation. For the African nation. Compensation. We want reparation. For the African nation. Compensation.
Let's give Jason a huge round of applause. Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Now, you know what? There's a reception afterwards, and I want to interact with you all. So I'm going to not do one or two other songs. It's cool, it's all good, because I don't want to wear out my welcome. I'm going to do a short version of the first song I sang in my life. Took place at Oswego. And the other night I got a letter from one of my roommates, Jerry Seinfeld. And he said to me, congratulations on your retirement and on your concert at Oswego. He said many things that were very touching. And I won't forget them. And I hope in the future he and I can have a reunion. He said in the note that although it may have not been very good, but he wrote his first piece of comedy at Oswego in the dorm. And he doesn't recognize that it was a trailblazing moment when we were roommates because my black roommate had fallen sick and had to leave Oswego. So it was a real moment, as Jack Carr knows, when we became roommates. And there's a picture that I'm gonna send to him, and if he gives me permission, I'm gonna release it, with him with long hippie hair, sitting on my side of the room, with Donna Ross and the Supremes and Isaac Hayes posters on the wall. I think many people will find that a wonderful music. So I'm gonna do this last piece, a jazz standard, the first song I sang at Oswego, and thank the great voice teachers, the Carpathians and others here, When Sunny Gets Blue. And how do you know Johnny Mathis? Ever heard of a man named Johnny Mathis? When I was growing up, and I was taken by Johnny Mathis, and he was an Olympic champion, he was brilliantly talented, and he was just a beautiful human being. You know, you're not supposed to, in those days, you couldn't say that as a male, because then people start looking at you funny and stuff. But he was and is, as he's in his 90s now, still performing music. So I want to thank the whole band, all of these wonderful singers and people have had, and I hope to see you at the reception, which will be on the second floor. Second floor, right? Is that what they told me? So I thank you for coming. I hope this storytelling has been meaningful to you. And it's been a joy for me to do this. And I hope that there are many other opportunities where things can be done to galvanize Cornell alum and others to continue to have this institution to thrive in its greatness. And I want to thank all of you out here and friends of mine that I don't even know are in the audience because I can't see. I want to thank my brother who supplied my clothing tonight and helped me with this tie ring string so I wouldn't do something obscene up here. But here's the song. Please meet me upstairs with the band. When sunny gets blue, her eyes get gray and cloudy, then the rain begins to fall. Pitter-patter, pitter-patter, love is gone, so what can matter? No sweet lover man comes to call. When sunny gets blue, she breathes a sigh of sadness, like the wind that blows the trees. When that keeps the leaves swaying, like some violins are playing, sweet enchanted melody. People used to love to hear her laugh, see her smile. That's how she got her name. Since that sad affair, she's lost her style, changed her smile. Nothing is the same. Well, memories will fade, pretty dreams will rise up where the others fell so through. Hurry, new love, hurry to kiss away each lonely tear and hold me near when Sunny gets blue. I'd like to thank everybody here tonight, particularly these players. People used to love to hear her laugh, see her smile. That's how she got her name. Since that sad affair, she's lost her style, changed her smile. Nothing is the same. Well, memories will fade, pretty dreams will rise up where the others fell flow through. Hurry, new love, hurry to kiss away each lonely tear and to hold her near when Sunny gets blue. Good night, everybody. Meet me upstairs at the reception. Love you. 1, 2, 3, 4.